welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Penny, the podcast that celebrates the chaos of being a mom, a wife, and a teacher. Yeah! So, I'm saying podcast because I am so grateful and so happy to announce that this is our episode 3 on YouTube, but it's also our first podcast episode. So, yay! We're growing, we're moving, there's progress. So grateful. And then that also brings me to the following. I just want to say thank you for all the love and support so far from the family, friends, strangers, and all my learners. Guys, you're so sweet. My biggest supporters. I'm so grateful. And I'm not mocking you. I'm really, really grateful. And I feel truly inspired by your support. I also feel like for the longest time, my learners have been my biggest supporter. Other than my own family, my husband and my kids, I do feel like my learners, they always hype me up. Like a few weeks ago, someone asked me, why do you come to school or something into that effect? And then we had this conversation and I was like, these kids make me feel like I am a celebrity. Like, if I stay absent for one day, the next day, like, juffrou, waar was juffrou? Oh my word, we missed you. And that is part of the reason why I go to school, I love the fact that my learners are always hyping me. And it just makes me feel good. It makes me feel confident about what I'm doing. And it inspires me to do better and to do more for them, So that also brings me to today's episode. As you know, I advocate for the kids, because I'm a teacher and I'm a mom. So obviously, I'm going to have their best interest at heart. Please forgive the English, I'm actually an Afrikaans girly, but I'm trying my best. So please, bear with me. Sometimes my words will be escaping me, and then the Afrikaans will just like dive in there. But I'm hoping that you get the gist of the message, So today's episode, I'm calling The Kids Are All Right. Now, you can interpret this as you want, it's fine. But for me, it has a specific meaning. And we'll get to that in a minute. So, we all know that, let me just stop there and tell you the following. I had to write down notes for this. It felt like I was writing an essay because I didn't want to forget anything. So, if you see me looking down or you hear me pause for a minute, just know that I am just, checking out my notes to see if I'm still on track and so on. Yeah, so my note says, it is the... Well, you see, I already made a mistake even while looking at my notes. Like this Friday is just like, yeah. Anyway, let's start from the beginning, all right? This is what I want to say. We've been noticing over the past few years that kids have been changing. People have the saying, everyone is always saying like, yeah, in my days, kids were not like this. When I was a kid, this wasn't like this. And, things change. It's obvious that it's going to change. But in recent years, it looks like it was fast forwarded, and it was baie vinnig geweest. And this created so much issues and comes from, well, this is my opinion anyway. I think the fact that we need to face here is there is a massive gap between Gen Y and Gen Z and Alpha. And that is part of the reason why we have so much issues between adult and children, if you get what I'm saying. There is an obvious gap. And for us to close that gap is quite important, and there's many ways that we can do this. Now, I wrote down a couple of things here that I want to mention, but I also want to say that this might be the reason for the discipline problems in our schools. No, I say expert. I'm not an expert. I'm just talking about what I'm seeing, and trying to find a solution anyway. And so far, my findings And my solution in my own classroom and in my own life has worked. It's worked out. Now, I am not a mom of teenagers, so maybe my tune will change when my kids are teenagers. But like I said, I'm raising Gen Alpha. Hopefully, by the time they get to being teenagers, that I would understand what and how things, I would be able to navigate my way through the teenage years as a parent. And so there's 3 things that I wrote down that needs to happen, or 3 sections that we can touch on with regards to closing this gap between Gen Y and the Gen Zs. No? So firstly, I already said we need to close the gap, and that's the first thing. That's the first thing we need to do. But let us break this down. No? So first of all, it is obvious that they have different views. They see life differently. They see things. It's amazing to see or to listen to how they view things. For example, school. So many of these kids do not believe in the education system. They tell me straight out, "Ma'am, I'm just here to please my parents. I don't want to be here." And I appreciate that honesty. I'm sorry, but I do. Okay? I wouldn't have it any other way. And hats off to you putting in so much commitment for your parents, to please them. But that is the view of our Gen Zs, yeah. They have different views on everything. Another example. When I grew up, I grew up in a time where you were not supposed to backchat. No, you were not supposed to talk back to parents or to adults at all. And if you did, then was it disrespectful. Now, to Gen Z, that is not seen as disrespect. That is just, I'm just raising my opinion. I'm just telling you how I feel. Sometimes it comes through as a little bit, it kom 'n bietjie hard hier, it kom kras hier. It comes through as harsh, but they don't really mean it in that way. Now, in saying that, I'm not trying to make excuses for our children. I'm not trying to excuse their behavior. I'm just saying there might be too large of a gap. And that gap comes from not understanding the generation that we are dealing with. Okay? So they have different views. They see things differently. The next thing is they have different issues that they are facing. They have different problems. My problems were, like, for example, people were bullying me when I was in high school. Okay? And the extent of that bullying went to calling me names. That's that. Okay? And when I went home, I could say to my mommy, "Listen here, this happened today and whatever," and she would try to make me feel better, and she would try to give me advice on how to retaliate tomorrow, or how to ignore it, or whatever. And that was the end of it. I can go to bed and I can feel safe in my bedroom, and that's that. But these days, you have something called cyberbullying, which means it's a never-ending thing. You wake up in the morning, the first thing the child does is they take their phones. They go on their social media. Oh my goodness, there's a post about me. Or, oh my goodness, I don't have as much likes as I wanted to have. And that now is touching my feelings, and you know what I'm saying? And then there's a bully. This bully is not just bullying me at school. She unfortunately has my number. She's on my socials and she's sending me messages. She's harassing me to the point where I don't want to live anymore. I don't know. I can't see any way out. And the next thing for me is like, I just want to end my life because I can't take this anymore. And which is very, very sad. And that is something that we as Gen Y, ons weet nie hoe om daarmee te deel. We didn't have that, and so it's, wait, let me not, we didn't have that. We didn't deal with issues concerning social media or a picture that I sent to another person is now out there for the whole world to see, and he's posting it everywhere. we didn't have that. Okay, so these kids are dealing with different problems. That's only one. I'm only mentioning a few to prove the point. And then the third thing I wrote down was the fact that they have access to everything. Okay, so in the middle of the night, sometimes I wake up, I think of something, I can go onto Google and I can just search, and Google will give me that answer. And now we have AI. Okay, I go into WhatsApp. On top there's a bar, and I put in there, why is my lip so green? And then it's gonna put, oh, you're being poisoned or whatever, so you can get an immediate answer. So just think of, in a parent's point of view, I did not treat my child very nicely today because I was stressed because of work stuff. She goes to bed, she goes and Googles, why is my mom saying these things to me? I said that in the heat of the moment. I said that when I was angry, dealing with my own stuff, which I shouldn't say, but I said it anyway. She goes, and then AI says, your mom does not love you. She is a bad parent. So now she knows what I'm doing is wrong. Ne? She comes back to me the next morning and she says to me, Mommy, you know what? You are being a bad parent. Why are you doing this to me? What is my response going to be? You are being disrespectful. How can you say that I am being a bad parent? You live in my house. I buy you clothes. I feed you. I support you in everything you do. No. They have access. So we need to think twice about what we say, about what we do, about how we act. Okay, because they are watching and they have access. And that access is not only about you not doing the things they want you to do, but so many other things, access to, the list is too long to mention, but the fact that they do have access, it's almost like it empowers them. It empowers them. Okay? And we don't really know how to deal with that power that they have, because we have been conditioned, or we know parenting to be the mom and the dad is always right, and the child should be obedient and they should listen. That's the end of it. Okay? That's how we used to know it. The next thing I wrote down was the fact that, and it ties in with the access part, our kids know their rights. They know their rights. A lot of years ago, when I was a child, I didn't want to do the dishes or something, and my mom was saying that, ek gaan vir jou neek. And I said to her, if you raise your hands to me, I'm going to call the police. Mistake of my life, mense. Mistake of my life. She didn't raise her hands to me, but her words, yay, it scared the heebie-jeebies out of me, but that alone. And today, when they say, look, I've heard of a situation where the mom and the child or the teenager, they were fighting, and the next moment, it was not even, well, to her, it obviously was bad. But it wasn't physical. And 1, 2, 3, toe staan die polisie voor die deur. Because they know their rights, and we don't know how to handle that. We also know their rights, but we don't always agree with that right. But they have it, and they agree with it. You know what I'm saying? We need to learn how to handle that. Because those rights give them power. The same with the school. They know their rights, but we'll get there in a minute. Then this attitude that they have. I want to say that many of our kids today, many of our teenagers today feel very entitled. Now I say that, and I know my learners are probably going to come for me for saying this, but really that is what it is. I do feel like some children or some teenagers or some kids, they really feel entitled. Hulle wil net hê, because they feel like you are supposed to provide for me. You are supposed to give me this. And I want it. And if I don't get it, dan gaan ek vir jou sê. But dit is wat my toekom. I didn't ask to be in this world. You brought me into this world, and we are always I remember some of the kids saying to me that, Juffrou, why do parents like to say, I brought you into this world so I can take you out? I was laughing. I didn't have an answer because that is something that parents say. But then they do have this attitude of, this is what I'm supposed to be getting. You know what I'm saying? And again, we don't know how to handle that. We need to find ways of, what is the word? Of, well, I will get to it. I will get to it. But we need to find the ways to do the thing that I'm thinking of. And so in school, all right? In school, we have major discipline issues, okay? And some of these issues doesn't have to be that major. It spirals into something extremely big, okay? So firstly, let's start with, now this is a very sensitive topic. This is a very sensitive statement that I'm going to make now. I don't feel that what we are teaching our kids is really relevant. Now that is just my opinion. Might be wrong of me to say this. And if you want to come for me, it's fine. I can back up why I'm saying this. Like I said in previous videos, I listen to my kids with the intent of learning from them. And you know what, once one of the learners said to me, Juffrou, what you are teaching me now, I can actually learn on YouTube. I didn't have a comeback. And so, it's actually a very emotional situation, there. Especially because I'm a passionate educator. And I'm sure that this might not sit nice with a lot of educators, especially the ones that have been serving for years. But I really think that we need to start choosing relevant topics. Dan gaan ons ook nie vervelig geraak in die klasse nie. You need to keep it relevant. And if the information that we are relaying to the learners is not relevant anymore, then we should find a way of making it relevant. Maybe try to explain to them, listen here, this is why you're supposed to know this information. No? Not just alles in hulle keelgatte en afdrukkie. But that I think is a video or an episode on its own. But it's necessary for us to really reflect and think about how we can keep things relevant for these kids. No? We need to update the curriculum. We really need to do that. Now, I am just a little juffroukie, post-level 1 juffroukie. Wat weet ek? I'm just on the ground, boots on the ground every day. Trying to keep my kids engaged, trying to keep them informed, trying to keep them interested in what I'm teaching. And again, this is a sensitive saak, julle. It's a very sensitive saak. I don't have the answers. I don't know how we are going to update the curriculum. I have a few ideas, definitely. But met wie moet ek praat oor my ideas? I don't even know. Maybe this is why I was supposed to start this channel. I don't know. So, updating the curriculum means using AI, using apps, using technology. And how are we going to learn to use technology? Not from the next person that's the same age as me. Nee, mense, we need to get these kids involved. We need to get them involved. Tell them, listen here. I saw a quote actually in a teacher's class yesterday that said something to the line of, if they cannot learn, something about how you teach and how they learn. If they cannot learn how you teach, you must teach how they learn. Iets soos daai in die lyn in. So we need to update your curriculum so that we can actually teach these kids what they are supposed to know. Why is there not a subject or a topic in LO, for example, explaining to these kids how to keep safe on social media? Is hy nie voor die hand liggend nie? Isn't that obvious that ek weet nie, like I said, I'm just a juffroukie, you know? But that is something that I would want my daughter to learn in school. How am I going to deal with cyberbullying? Because that's bullying in die LO boeke. Is daar cyberbullying in? Ek weet nie. Okay? Relevance. It needs to be relevant. Closing that gap. Closing that gap is important. Ek gaan vir julle nou sê, ek wil my kop op 'n blok sit. If we start listening to our Gen Zs, I'm not saying that we need to forget everything that we've been taught and forget everything that we've learned and just listen to the Gen Z generation and do things the way they want things to be done. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we need to meet in the middle. Because as much as we do not want to admit it, they have gold. They have things that can enhance our lives. And we have things that can also guide them. No? Ja, laat ek aangaan. So this ties in with our teaching styles, our teaching methods. All right. I attended a seminar in, I think it was last year, in the beginning of last year, where the juffroukie taught us how to use Canva, how to use different apps to keep the kids engaged. But still, we have no cell phone policies. And I know why. I understand why we do not have, or why we do have a no cell phone policy. But should there then not be a subject or a topic somewhere in some subject teaching these kids how to use their phones responsibly? Because if our kids are disciplined, if we have disciplined kids, we can use the phone in the class. Maar ons het kinders gebruik ons die phones vir al die verkeerde redes. We make videos of fights. Did the person who bought that phone for them, did someone say to them, listen here, this is how you switch the phone on, this is how you switch it off, this is how you navigate your way through the phone? Nee, niemand het hy gesê nie, because you get that in the little leaflet in there, no? The instructions. But did we teach them how to use the phone responsibly? When you use this app, you cannot lie about your age and say you are 18 years old and dan maak jy vir jou Facebook account op. Please be aware that if you have a Facebook account, people from nowhere can come into that app and add you as a friend and catfish you. Nee, ons skool leer vir ons daai nie. Again, I can just feel myself trapping on toes. I can just feel myself stepping on toes right now. But this is what it is. And for the longest time, I have been keeping these things to myself, no? Because I am scared of, or I was scared of what other people would say, how they would respond to what I am saying. But ek is jammer, dames en here, dit is wat het is. I don't know if I am the only person that thinks this way. But I don't know. I'm the kind of person that I love learning, like I said to you before. But it is important for me to have tools, man. I need to have tools to navigate my way through life, to navigate my way through the career that I've chosen. Die kinders is woes as hulle tyd het, but you need to have the tools. And sometimes your tools and the tools that the other people give you, it's maybe not the same. Maybe yours is more effective, maybe theirs is more effective, but you need to be open-minded. Not just me. The person giving you the rules should be open-minded. The person applying the rules should also be open-minded. Because die een ding weet jy altyd vir almal nie. You can have this one class coming here. Yeah, smart kinders, rustig, kalm, work ethic is. And in the next class, you try the same techniques. Fail. But that is what it is. You need to have tools. And that is how I get to these things. That is how I figure these things out. I'm always researching ways to keep this engaged. What does this behavior mean when a child does this, that, and the other? What does this behavior mean? I am intentional and I am deliberate in whatever I do in my classroom. I try my best to provoke critical thinking in order to learn from my learners. Because ek is a lifelong learner. No? But let me move on. Then I said here, don't compare. This is something that we often do. Okay? As a parent and as a teacher. We love to compare. My leerders van last year, my kids of last year, they didn't do this. You know, Auntie Dinges, she doesn't have to do this for her child. Her child does it on her own. And what we get angry when the kids compare us to another teacher. But I do not. You know, it's hard facts. It hurts. And I know that I'm stepping on many toes. But dis die waarheid. Dit is die waarheid. So don't compare. Right? And the next one says, allow them to take the lead. As an educator, I don't know everything yet. I'd stand in that classroom and one of those kids would ask me, Juffrou, wat is die woord in Afrikaans? I would not know. I'm not going to stand there and pretend that I don't know. I'm going to say, okay guys, Nike, Viti, let's Google it. You know, because I do think this generation appreciates honesty. Who doesn't, you know? But now, what do you think? Maybe you can teach me something. And I'm telling you, I've said this and I'm saying this every day of my life. Every day I step into the classroom, another child teaches me a new lesson. Sometimes it's a life lesson. Sometimes it's about life science. Sometimes it's about Afrikaans, the subject that I teach. Something that I might not have known. Maar ons raak kwaad, mense. We see it as disrespect. No? Allow them to take the lead. And that is why I love prepared speeches. I love prepared speeches because I'm always learning from these kids. They come, they take over my classroom. I sit soos 'n kindjie in my klas in. And I get schooled by these learners. And I love it because that's how I learn. That is how I learn. And I squire for my. You know, it just makes me cleverer. Because I love knowing what is going on. I love being in the know. I love having discussions, arguments sometimes. Sometimes I'm doing the things on purpose. I'm saying the wrong thing on purpose just to see how they will react. We need to allow them to take the lead. And we need to respect their views. Julle, ons kan nie verwag. We cannot expect these kids to respect us if we don't respect them. Because we teach them. Now, most recently, like my mense, die mense wat in my jare gebore is, the Gen Ys, no? We were taught to respect our elders. That is all. Respect anyone and anyone that is above you. No? Gen Y's mense is teaching the kids, in order for you to get respect, or in order for you to gain respect, you must give respect. Something to that effect. No? Or stand up for seconds. We say, how can the teacher treat you like this? No, it is wrong. We go to school, ons raas over die school, or een of ander rede. I'm also counting myself in because I'm also a teacher. And I'm also a mother. So ek val beide kante. We teach them to stand up for themselves. And when they stand up for themselves, we see it as disrespect. Nee mense, no. That is the gap. That is the misunderstanding. That is the misconceptions wat daar is. yeah, it's deep, and this conversation is long. And I'm always saying this is my opinion. This is my opinion. So, and I'm not an expert. I'm speaking from experience. That's all. That's all. And this topic that I'm raising here and the conversation that I'm having with you might not be relevant to someone living in the North Cape. Because they might be fine. But we are not fine. We are definitely not fine. Because we don't understand the kids that we are raising. We don't understand the kids that we are teaching because we refuse to admit to the fact that that gap is because we don't want to understand them. Or maybe we do, but we don't know how. No? And so parenting, leads me to the next point that I wrote down here. Parenting. We need to adapt our parenting styles. No? Because I know there's many parents that still gives hidings, you know. Excuse me, but it's not working. The naughty corner worked for my daughter. And then my son came and it didn't work. Are we adapting our parenting skills? Or we forcing that naughty corner en dan maak jy jouself kwaad want die kind wil nie hoor nie. Same within the classroom. Adapting. And I don't think that we really know how to adapt our parenting skill or our parenting style, because this is not how we were taught. Most recently, I listened to the parents and I listened to some posts, videos and stuff where they say, but when you go to, oh my goodness, when you go to say you get on a train and you have a nice seat and you're sitting on your nice seat, and then an old lady comes in, and then you keep on sitting down because you paid for the seat, and your dad is sitting next to you maybe, and then the old lady is looking at you like, "Hy seun, hoekom staan jy nou nie op nie?" And your dad is like, "Nee, hoekom moet my seun opstaan? Ek het mos betaal vir my seun se sitplek." So things are different. It's not the same, okay? And like the dinosaurs, if you cannot adapt, you're gonna go extinct, you know. I'm joking about it, but it's very serious. It's a very serious thing. I don't know how Gen Alpha is going to act in their teenage years. As hulle al daar is, van hulle al daar, ek weet nie eens nie. No, it is scary to think about. And so I'm trying my best to learn more about it so that I can be ready when that bomb bursts, you know. So adapting our parenting styles are very important. And I spoke to you about this before, listening to them, you know. Listening and do you ever ask your kids like how was school, and then they say they can't remember, or they just don't want to talk about how school was, or hulle is net so oppervlakkig, man. What is oppervlakkig in English? Yeah, I know someone is saying it now, but I can't hear you. So, yeah, oppervlakkig, you know. It's so even on the surface, you know. You can't really, you need to scratch, you know, and to get down there to the deep side and actually figure out what happened at school today. And I know my son is like that. And so what we can do is maybe try to give them some words to start the conversations. Okay, say, I didn't like it when, or this happened because, something to that effect, you know. But also allow them to express. Like I had this conversation with my son yesterday. I really wanted to find out how the day was because my daughter said something happened. He was like, I can't remember. And then he couldn't complete the story. And then I said to him, okay, go on about your things, go play, and when you remember, or when you get the words to tell me, then you are welcome to come back and we can sit down and we can talk about it. So we shouldn't also force, no? But we need to allow them to express how they feel, and not see it as disrespect. Sometimes they come for us badly and like, yeah, but you weren't listening to me. I told you that story a long time ago, but you didn't listen. And you're like, what is that story? You never told me that story. But they actually did. And then you need to just fall in your skuld, you know. You need to admit that you were wrong in not listening. Because you probably were listening, but you weren't hearing, or you were hearing, but you weren't listening. Yeah. And yes, like I said before, respect their views. I'm glancing down to see if I am covering all the topics in my little bookie. We also need to support their dreams. Our kids these days have wild dreams. Wild dreams. Things that we would not consider. Things that our parents would have told us to not even dare to think about. You know, but we really can't dismiss them like that. You know, they need to figure out on their own. It's like I said last week. They need to figure out on their own. No, this is not for me. This is not what I want. Now, I'm not saying that you know that doing drugs is wrong, and now suddenly say Juanita now he, oh, let your kids do drugs and figure out they want to do it on their own. That is not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. But there's certain things that I think you need to give them an opportunity to do it. Like there's one person that I know, he just wants to be a millionaire. Like literally. Probably a billionaire. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. Probably a billionaire. He wants to be a billionaire, but his parents want him to go and study, you know. And they just want the best for him. They just want him to achieve good things that they could maybe not achieve, you know. Maar sy idee van ryk wees of succesvol wees is anders. Their ideas, like I said, their views are different. Their picture or their explanation of success, it's completely different to what I would think. Heeltemal. Okay, so we need to support them in their dreams and allow them to figure things out on their own sometimes. Like me, I need to let my kids go play by the park and get hurt. I know. And it can sometimes be difficult, you know, and you don't want it to come back and bite you in the rear, you know. And then adapting our discipline methods. Like I said, the naughty corner, for me, doesn't work anymore. And so I can't force it. Giving them a hiding, ach nee, wat? Glad nie. Het werk glad nie. You know? It just doesn't work. And so, for me, I think it's necessary for me to do my part in closing the gap. And I can only close the gap through educating myself and finding ways around certain things, like how to discipline my kids. There's ample information on the internet to help you with this. And the first thing you try might not work, but you need to continue trying. We can't give up on this generation, you know. Actually, we can't leave them to their own devices either. We need to meet them in the middle. And I do think that, like I asked one of the learners today, what do you think it's going to take for us to close this gap? And she said to me, communication and trying to understand where we come from. Now, what more can I say? What more can I say about that? As parents, as teachers, as adults, we need to do our part in closing this gap. And I do think, again, like I said last week, we'll have a better society. If you want your kids to grow into these great citizens that is actually, what is the word? Contributing positively to our society, then we need to close the gap, mensen. We need to close the gap We need to try and understand this generation so that we can teach them the things that we know. We also need to be open-minded and allow them to teach us the things that they know, because we come from different eras. Yeah, that is my 2 cents, people. That's my 2 cents. I would like to, before I end off, say thank you to my learners for always inspiring me to go for it and to do better and to learn more, you know. They can be very harsh sometimes. I don't take offense to that. I don't take offense. I just take it and I try to grow from it, you know. What is the spreekwoordjie? Grow through what you go through. Yeah. So thank you so much for listening, ladies and gentlemen, and kids, and mummies and daddies and juffrouwens en meneere. I appreciate you, and I'm hoping that you will be tuning in next week for another episode of On the Couch with Penny. And if you do have a 2 cents, you are welcome to message me, as I know that talk about changing some things in education might be ruffling a few feathers, you know. But that is my opinion. And at this moment in my life, I'm not about to change. I'm not about to change my opinion so that it does not ruffle any feathers. Maybe the feathers need to be ruffled. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so thank you, ladies and G's. I'll speak to you again next week. I'm going to have a special guest next week. And I don't think I might not be posting it on YouTube, depending on how it goes. But it will definitely be podcasted. Is that a word? Podcasted. Yeah. So thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you could have learned from me today. And I hope I ruffled some feathers. And I hope you join me next week for another episode of On the Couch with Penny. Bye. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.